hip hop was corrupt in its creation because the creators and founders of it were corrupt. When I was trying to explain it, people was like, oh, no, it's just beats. No, it's not beats. If you know anything about frequency, you know that it's never just beats. It's never just music.
Hey, what is going on with y'all, man? It is Black Balloon, and I'm coming back with another video, so y'all already know what's going on. Alright, y'all. In today's video, I'm bringing you guys this one because someone in the comments brought up Professor Griff and the fact that he talked about the Tavistock Institute, how they basically controlled hip-hop as well. The direction of hip hop early on wouldn't have been where it was without the Tavistock Institute. Basically, pushing trends onto the masses in the same fashion that we were talking about with the Beatles and rock and roll. It's pretty safe to say the Tavistock Institute had their hand in manipulating music to be the way that it is right now, all through mind control. Just like we were talking about in the part 1 of the Beatles video, right? I'm still going to come with a part 2 to that video. But I remembered the clip where Professor Griff was talking about the Tavistock Institute. And this was over 15 years ago. And he was right on. He was right on. I know we've heard probably all of Professor Griff's old clips where he was exposing hip hop and so on, right? Back then, people probably brushed it to the side like he just one of those guys that's just going hard against the establishment, hip-hop. He going hard against rappers wearing dresses. Like, he called it all out. He was saying that rappers are going to end up wearing dresses, all this, right? He was on point completely. So I was like, hey, in this video, we'll go ahead and play that clip because I've never actually used this particular clip in any of my videos before on this channel. So if you guys haven't heard it, this will be a brand new piece, of information, I guess, even though we're kind of talking about the same thing, but we'll kind of veer it a little bit more toward hip hop before we continue to part 2 on the Beatles, right? The clip is very interesting. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long. And I also want to play a clip that goes into the beginnings of hip hop, Africa Bambaataa, and the spirits that they were basically invoking in that time as well. The clip comes from Pastor Craig G. Lewis. He actually went on a podcast recently and did about a 2-hour interview where, man, he dropped so much knowledge in that interview that is crazy. Now, a lot of it is along the lines of the stuff that he's been exposing for over 20 years, all the way back to his hip hop series that you can find on his channel and his website. But I actually want to play a small clip from that interview as well. And then in my next video, I want to talk about some stuff that is from another section of that podcast that he went on, and just get into it a little bit more because, man, he dropped so much throughout the 2-hour interview. We could make 5 or 6 videos off of it, but I chose, I think, 2 sections that I really wanted to talk about and react to with y'all on the channel, get y'all opinions about it. So look out for that video next for sure. But for now, y'all, we'll go ahead and get into this clip with Professor Griff. So with that being said, check this out.
So in his book, from the book Behold the Pale Horse, written by William Cooper, a former naval intelligence officer, in regards to a document concerning the American public, it states, diversion is the primary strategy. The simplest method for securing silent weapons and gaining is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of basic system principles while keeping them confused. And this is what these reality shows are doing. confused about gender, confused about political, confused about your role. You understand what I'm saying? Confused about religion, confused about politics. It says keep them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance. Whereas the media, MEDIA, which stands for Multi-Ethnic Destruction in America, or Maniac European Devils in Action, keeps the adult population's attention diverted from real social issues and captivated by no matters of no real importance. It goes on to say, the schools are keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment is kept below the 6th grade level. When you start hearing songs like Laffy Taffy and these kind of songs would hit your lower chakras and vibrate that negative energy, activating your pituitary gland, releasing those hormones. Now you got grown-ass men making songs for 12 and 13-year-olds.
Teach, bro.
I.e. Jay-Z. You understand what I'm saying? So the public is kept busy working, and the result is no time to think. And that's exactly what they produced. And they wrote about it inside of a book called the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, Shaping the Moral, Spiritual, Cultural, Political, and Economic Decline of the United States by John Coleman. Now, John Coleman is the gentleman that wrote the Committee 300. And the Committee 300 is that organ that decide what the trends are going to be in the black community. So when you start seeing people wearing mohawks and tight pants and wearing 2 earrings and acting like women, that was manufactured and put among us. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to understand that. How they did it, they said they devised a system. And the aim of the 12 atonal system that they devised jointly by British intelligent operatives from Tavistock University or Tavistock Institute in England. They put these 12 tones among us, all right, and created this thing, punk rock and this other uncontrollable music. Look up Operation Paperclip and it'll tell you all about it. But Adorno was a system of music that could program the mass music culture capable of eroding the morals of its listeners until they decline to a point where they will totally be degraded by it. And that's what's going on today. The music is bringing us down to an animalistic level, to the point where we don't even care about the art form. We just want a paycheck. So now it's cool for a Jim Jones to come out talking about nah, 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 and grown folks go for it. You understand what I'm saying? It's cool for these cats to come out with songs talking about I'm stupid, you stupid, we stupid. Why does that appeal to grown men and grown women? Joe Bacan put out a DVD called The Corporation. He said children as tomorrow's consumers represent a huge market today and therefore a fair game. You understand what I'm saying? So they are attacking the children using tones and frequencies. And parents want to see their children happy. We go out and use our credit cards and our hard-earned dollars to make sure our children are happy. So we get the sneakers and the new video games and the new songs that come out and this kind of thing. Thinking that we're making our children happy, we're feeding our children's minds and souls to the wolves.
All right, y'all. Now, that clip is very important, right? There's something in that clip that we're about to read about that a lot of people wouldn't have paid attention, because what you would have heard is we and our kids and the youth, we are being influenced by frequencies and music. You know, just off my natural thought, that's what people would have heard. And I'm just talking about the normal person who's listening to it, and you take it in and you're like, yeah, that's true. Because you hear a lot of people, even artists, talking about, you can be controlled through music, through frequencies, through things that you listen to every day. I've talked about it before, in the most simple form. You could be walking past a store playing a song. That song will quickly jump into your subconscious and you're repeating that song for the rest of the day. We call it being a song stuck in my head. That's on purpose. It's not just, just because you like the song and you can't stop saying it or singing it. No, the frequency has jumped into your subconscious, into your organs, because that's where it attacks. And your body is literally spitting the song out in a sense. Like you can't stop singing it. And this is the reason behind it. It's like a control tool. Those frequencies are targeted toward each organ, toward your brain, your subconscious. It's done on purpose. It's literally, it targets you. That's like the most simplest way I can put it. It's almost like a form of an attack on your subconscious. Doesn't matter what the song is. It's not about the song being an R&B song, a slow song, a rap, trap, drill song. It doesn't matter. It's the frequency. It's the stuff that you cannot see. I was saying that because, most people understand that. You have to remember, he talked about the 12 atonal system. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting, because you have to think about rock and roll, rap, the genres, the different genres. They didn't just come out of nowhere. A band didn't just hop on some drums and the microphone and boom, rock and roll was created. And we didn't just start thinking about rock and roll beats and rap beats and trap beats. It didn't just spawn out of nowhere, right? Found this article, and like I said, this 12 atonal system stuff is very interesting in how it was started and how Theodore Adorno, some people he considered to be like advanced musicians back at that time, how they created rock and roll. Remember, rock and roll was it was used to first influence, especially the youth. We're going to get into this, though. This is almost going into some of the stuff I wanted to use for part 2 of the Beatles video. But when I heard Professor Griff talk about it, and, this is not just geared toward rap, this is just music, period. I had to add this in here. It's like, it's damn near turning into a part 2 without me, going down the Paul McCartney stuff yet. But look, check this out, right? So it says Adorno, which is Theodore Adorno, the one who wrote the music for the Beatles, very well could have been one of the brains behind rock and roll. Driven Mad is taken from Tavistock's training manual. From its modest beginnings in 1921, Tavistock was ready in 1966 to launch a major, irreversible cultural revolution, aka the mass culture industry in America, one that has not ended yet in 2025. A little background on Adorno. He was born September 11th, 1903. That's very interesting. As Theodor Ludwig Wiesengrund. He was yet another one of those mixed hybrids from Frankfurt that we keep discovering in our research. Was he the scion of yet another hitting Frankish bloodline? He was the only son of a wealthy German wine merchant. His mother was an accomplished musician of Catholic descent. Adorno dropped Wiesengrund, his original last name, and adopted his mother's family name. He excelled on the piano and thought for a while of becoming a composer rather than a philosopher. This is where it gets interesting. Adorno was working with a guy named Alban Berg. Berg was another overrated but promoted composer of hideous music, which Adorno picked up. They actually have a piece of this on YouTube. It's in this article, they deem it an awful piano piece Adorno himself composed and performed. This piano piece ended up being the 12 atonal system, consisting of heavy, repetitive sounds taken from the music of the cult of Dionysus and the Baal priesthood. Adorno gave them a modern flavor. In other words, Adorno dumbed it down for purposes of creating rock and roll. Remember, we've talked about the cult of Dionysus. We all know Baal, however you want to say it. So these sounds were taken from the occult, the Baal, and the Baal priesthood. Adorno dumbed this stuff down, y'all, for purposes of creating rock and roll. It says Adorno licked his lizard lips in describing this concoction. What can be urged against the Beatles, he said during a discussion in the magazine in 1965 is simply that what these people have to offer is something that is retarded in terms of its own objective content. It can be shown that the means of expression that are employed and preserved here are in reality no more than traditional techniques in a degraded form, y'all. There are some, other composers of the 12 tone technique as well. And they all basically have, I was surprised that this stuff is still on YouTube. The examples of the 12 tone technique is from a bunch of different people. Arnold Schoenberg, Richard Strauss, just two of the names who you can find some of their original compositions here on YouTube. Now it goes on to say the Beatles became a highly visible new type in Tavistock jargon, and as such, it was not long before the group made new styles, fads in clothing, hairstyle, and language usage that upset the older generation as it was intended. This was part of the fragmentation maladaptation process worked out by Harman, Adorno, and their team of social scientists and genetic engineering tinkerers, and put into action. The Beatles were introduced to the public as means to spread youth culture, which led to the spreading of the New Age culture. And this was all geared to set up a culture that is present today. In hindsight, though the Beatles were tame, they were just a warm-up. We basically have a full understanding of how, they said it, a degenerate art, a degraded form of music, retarded music. That's basically what they said. They even used the word retarded. We have an idea or a full understanding of how rock and roll was created, manipulated, orchestrated, manufactured, and given to the people, and created the hippie movement. Of course, threw in the occult side of it. The tones, y'all have to remember where this stuff comes from. It all starts from the occult. Baal worship, cult of Dionysus. You have to remember where this stuff comes from. Nothing of this sort comes from anything good, any kind of good spirit. This didn't come from God. We have a full understanding of what they created to create music like rock and roll that rolled right into hip hop. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And today it's even worse. Just like he was saying, it's all being geared toward the youth. And now, hip hop, trap, drill music, and how, we've been put down to an animalistic state. It's true. Even in 2025, you may not think it in such a simple term, but these kids are killing each other like animals. Human life doesn't even matter anymore. And that's literally what it means to be in an animalistic state. You're killing each other like animals, leaving the body out on the middle of the street like it's an animal. You don't even think. So what they started back in the 40s, 50s, 60s is still going on today, and it's even worse. It is going to drown the youth out. It really already has. None of this stuff has any soul in it. None of this new music has any kind of goodness in it. No soul at all. The frequencies are the lowest of the low vibration that there can be. Literally down to, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. It's dark. It's the most demonic tones that you can possibly get out of music is what we're listening to now. And you add on the words, you add in, the rituals and things that are done around the music. You're fully controlled by it. That's why these kids hear this drill type of music and they want to go kill. Just like the person who is rapping it, and the person rapping it, they may not even be killing anyone. But their music and that frequency and that tone and that low vibration, it just caused a bunch of little kids to go out and go do a drill and do some drive-bys and kill other kids, all because of the music they listen to. It's very deep, dark, and demonic.
Not at all. Hip hop was corrupt in its creation because the creators and founders of it were corrupt. So African Bambaataa went to Africa and he learned the ways of the Zulus. The Zulus are into ancestral worship. He brought those spirits back and began to make raps and beats about how those spirits, how powerful they were. That's what Planet Rock is about. You know, Planet Rock, don't stop, rock the Planet Rock. That's basically false god worship rock because the planets into the Zulus were considered gods. And so from the beginning, it's been corrupt. When I was trying to explain it, people was like, oh, no, it's just beats. No, it's not beats. If you know anything about frequency, you know that it's never just beats. It's never just music. Music carries the heart of the author that created it. And the best example of that is in the Bible. King David, when Saul was troubled by the evil spirit, he played, but because of his heart and his disposition, the spirit came and soothed the evil spirit and chased it away. That's because of who David was, a man after God's own heart. It's different when he plays versus, they didn't just go looking for anyone to play. It had to be someone with the right spirit. And if you know anything about frequencies, especially mastering houses and different things, they're able to put things in music to give music, flight, so that this particular music is meant to change a person in this way or that way.
All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and end this video. I'm going to stop it here. The next video, which will be on Friday, we will pick up from this exact moment. I'll play that entire clip. Then I have another clip from that podcast episode where we're going to talk about some things as well. Very interesting. That podcast has definitely made its rounds. It's, I think, sitting at over 600,000 views in a week. So it definitely goes to show you the pull that Craig G. Lewis has, Pastor Craig G. Lewis. Y'all already know him. We've had him on the channel, as far as his clips multiple times. Super dope, man. We're going to come back Friday and react a little bit more to the clips from that podcast, like I said. But I wanted to throw that one in here because he talked about exactly what we just got finished going over as far as the power of frequencies and music and beats, and the fact that it's not just the beats, it's not just the words, it's the frequency that is coming from it, especially the person who intended it to be a certain kind of way, which would be the creator of that music, of those frequencies, and so on, right? So like I said, man, we will pick up where we're leaving off on Friday. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. Y'all already know what's going on, man. It's Black Balloon, and I'm going to see y'all soon. I'm out.